Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
All
Good
right, so
afternoon.
good. Business as usual. I know you are tired, but I think we still do not have a better. I think I told the class to maybe um, consider having the class maybe earlier. Sundays are out, but any other day apart from maybe this time we could. But I didn't receive anything from the class, so I think.
We are working on it. We'll get back to you on that.
All right, no
But
problem. So,
it's 10 it's I'm coming 7, 8, 9. It's 9:30 okay for you?
9:30. My lecture with the morning, the level 200 ends at 10. So maybe I can do that. Maybe yes, I can do maybe 1 hour 45 minutes with them, and then start with you around 9:45 thereabout.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Okay. Okay. So last week, um, I think 2 weeks ago, we started something. I don't know. In fact, we've looked at the procurement practice. We also have considered categories of purchasing. In fact, for procurement practices, if you've been reading, it's captured that almost everybody undertakes procurement to some extent because from that fundamental definition, once you procure, once you buy, once you purchase anything, you have undertaken some aspect of purchasing or procurement. So from that angle, almost everybody does some aspect of procurement. But once we talk about organizational procurement from that perspective, it is not anybody. In fact, people are now in school trying to gain the necessary um, knowledge. Others are into practice, but they are still here trying to, upgrade what they know. And now, because the focus has shifted from that traditional administrative clerical role to more business oriented, just anybody at all cannot practice. So that's why you are here to get the necessary skill to be able to execute the work perfectly. And then with the categories of purchases, I mentioned that, in fact, there are different categories. Different categories. We have I mentioned straight ribeye, we have um, um, modified ribeye, we have new buy. And then apart from that, there's another category. We have MRO goods or items. We also have capital goods. We have goods for sales. We have different type of goods. And then according to, I don't know if, did we touch on the practice metrics? Have we done something on practice metrics?
No, sir.
Not yet, sir.
Oh, okay. So you talk about that. And then we mentioned um, direct and then indirect goods or procurement. So once procurement goes into production, directly involved in production of goods and services, then the term for that procurement or good is known as what? Direct procurement. And then in the organizational level, we also procure certain items. And most of these items do not directly get involved with the final product or are not integrally part of the production process, but they are still part of the company's needs or their business needs. We classify those goods as what indirect. So we deal with a number of goods. It is up to the entity to distinguish between direct goods or direct items from indirect items. Today, we are looking at Unit 4. That is procurement cycle and planning. Procurement cycle and planning. And these are the outline. You look at the cycle planning, and then if there's time, you look at the functions of the procurement department or unit. And then the objectives are very simple here, 3 of them. Now, when we talk about the cycle, procurement cycle, in fact, we say that it is more or less a roadmap of the procurement process. And this roadmap establishes the key activities required at every stage of the procurement process. So you can't just get up and begin to undertake procurement from that organizational perspective anyhow. It must be done systematically. In fact, there are steps. So you start from step 1, step 2, or stage, or phases. So those phases are what we term as what? The cycle, because it moves in that cyclical manner from step 1, step 2 to the final stage. So anytime you are starting another procurement process, you move in that direction. Okay, so that is how we term the processes as what? A cycle, procurement cycle. So the cycle provides useful benchmark for procurement monitors and evaluators to carry out their duties effectively. So in case we want to monitor or evaluate how the procurement has been executed, it will be done based on the steps or the phases. So step 1 of phase 1, what is the expectation and what did the entity do? Okay, so at the end of the day, we compare what has been done to the expectation or the norm. And then if there are lapses, we try to fix it in subsequent procurement. Okay, so we move in that direction. And those in public procurement, every year, Public Procurement Authority assesses the performance of procurement entities in Ghana. And the PPA will do that based on the cycle. Okay, so what are the number of procurement activities did the entity undertake under the year under review? So they will go through from step 1, step 2, step 3, and then what actually happened. And then at the end of the processes, PPA will categorize or rank the performances of public entities in Ghana. And then PPA can say that after going through the assessment, they saw maybe GCTU procurement entity as the best entity in Ghana. Okay, so that is what happens within the public space. But in the private space, normally the internal auditors will do the assessment. And then sometimes external auditors are also called upon to, confirm or reject what has been done by the internal auditors. So this is how the procurement cycle, this is what I term as what? The generic. So based on what you see here, we can modify or customize the cycle to suit the organizational objective. So generically, this is how the procurement cycle looks like. So the first step of the cycle is what? Identify the need. Do you see that? Do you see that on your screen? Identify the need.
Yes, sir.
Good. So that is the first step. So normally I tell students that procurement department or officers do not originate procurement process. I think I don't know if I mentioned that to you. So it is the end user or the user department that originates the procurement process. So first of all, there must be a need. Somebody must identify a need before the process can continue, or procurement, we can say that procurement process has been activated. Identify the need. Without a need, there's no procurement. So in the organization, maybe for 2 years, for 1 year, for 1 month, if there is no need that has been identified by a user, procurement can't do anything. You only act once there is what? A need identification. So that is the first step. So this is the generic. I will give you the modified one. So here you identify the need, and then once you identify the need, there's what? You need to communicate the need to the appropriate department. That is the procurement department. And you don't do that by word of mouth. You do that through the appropriate requisition format. Sometimes you use a requisition form or bill of material, depending on what the organization is using. So you identify the need, and then you communicate the need to the procurement department in the form of what? Requisition. Then there's another section called definition of the need. So once you identify the need, doesn't end there. You need to define it. You need to specify the need. Specification. You need to specify. So if you need a laptop, for instance, that is the need. How, what form? How do you need a laptop? You need to, define it. And then you develop contractual terms, source the market, appraise suppliers, invite quotation or tenders. Quotation, once we are inviting quotation, it means it is a low value procurement. Low value. The value involved is not that huge. And then tender, the moment it is competitive bidding, competitive or tendering, then you invite tenders from potential providers. It could be suppliers, it could be contractors to participate in the procurement process. And then once the quotation is received or the tenders have been received, you need to analyze the quotation or the tenders. And then you select the most appropriate, most promising supplier or tenderer. So sometimes after selecting, there may be some issues that require negotiation. And this could be the value itself, the procurement value, or the cost or the price. Or you can also negotiate on delivery time frames, or yes, delivery time frames. You can negotiate on the quantity that you need. You can negotiate on the quality that you need. You can negotiate on so many aspects. So negotiation is not only about price. You can even negotiate on payment terms. Okay, so you do negotiation, and then once the negotiation is done successfully, then there's award of contracts. There's award of contract. And then once you award the contract, you need to manage the contract. And that is the end of what? The cycle. That is from the generic perspective. And then I have this. I have the modified one. So from the modified one, we have planning. So the planning entails, I mean, what do you call it? Identification. So planning, in some books, sometimes you will not see plan, you see budgeting. In some books, you see funding. It is part of this. So planning, budgeting, funding, that is the first step here. Okay, so that is the first part. And then there's what we call sourcing. We'll go into it shortly. There's contracting. There's contracting management or contract management. And then there's storage, there's distribution, there's disposal. But look at this. You see, from this diagram, you see that once we go to contracting, then we move straight to evaluation, because in some organizations, even in public procurement, public sector, store is now outside of procurement. It is outside of procurement. Now, I think it's under finance or accounts. Okay, but it is part of the processes, because sometimes once you procure, the items do not go straight into consumption, so we need to store them. But now, because of, I don't know, for some reasons, due to some people, they have been successful to separate stocks from procurement. But that is it. Planning, contracting. But if it should continue, you get to the final evaluation. Okay, I think there are comments here. Let me check. Oh, my network. Yeah, okay. Let me try.
Your network is fine. I think it's from the person's end.
Oh, it's fine. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, I received two comments from
Yeah, loud and
Sherry.
clear.
Joseph. It's okay. 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 So that is that with the cycle. Okay. So if there are questions, just show your hand. Okay. So let's go into the cycle planning stage. Planning, procurement planning. Okay. Any question up to this point? The cycle. I have given you the generic cycle, and then I have a modified cycle here. Okay, so that is that. Now we move straight to talk about procurement planning. Procurement planning. Planning our procurement. So when we talk about procurement planning, it is the process of identifying and consolidating requirements and determining the timeframes for their procurement with the aim of having them as and when they are required. Procurement plan or planning. So a good procurement plan will describe the process in the identification and selection of suppliers, contractors, or consultants. Formulation and the development of procurement plans is not just a good practice that must be embraced by procurement entities, but it is also a legal requirement, especially in public procurement. So in public procurement, it is a requirement that all procurement entities put their plan together. So per the act, the last quarter of the year, around October, the plan for the ensuing year must be prepared. So 2027 procurement plan must be submitted by the last quarter of the year, around October. So it's a requirement, meaning we need to plan our procurement ahead so that we find the appropriate source of funding. We will be able to, survey the market very well, appraise suppliers even ahead of time, be able to even vet those plans, the input received from the various departments to see if indeed they are actual needs. Because I've mentioned that the organization at every point in time will have more than one thing to do. The organization will be dealing with so many things, so many issues, just like humans, as individuals. At every point in time, now as we sit here, we may have a lot of things going through our mind. We want to buy a new car. We want to maybe have a new house. We want to maybe go for a vacation outside. We want to do this. We want to do this. But if you check all your revenue in a month, it may be less than 100,000 cedis, or sometimes 50,000. Sometimes some are even earning less than 5,000 cedis. Some are less than 10,000 cedis. Others are earning less than 2,000 cedis. So, but you have plans. So how do you get to achieve these things? That is why it is important to plan. And you deal with the most crucial ones. And once you are dealing with it, you need to check your revenue against the cost or prices of those things. Once they are outside your budget, there's nothing you can do unless you steal or you kill people. But if you want to do things the right way, then I think maybe you need to do what we refer as moonlight, multiple work. We teach here, you teach here, you teach here. So when you come to my room right now, you see a number of scripts. My room is full of scripts from different universities. Why? Because the plans are a lot, but the money is small. So in order to make more money, you have to be teaching here, 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 and then I can't even mark the scripts. You get it? I can't even mark the scripts. Yes. So that is a problem. The same applies to you. You have a lot of things on your mind, but the money is not there. So what do you do? So our friends, when they go on the roadside, they are doing a lot of things. It's not because they want to do it, but the plans they have, outweighs how the amount that comes to them, their pockets. So they have to do other things. So we need to plan. I understand that sometimes there are emergencies. In procurement, there are emergency procurement. Okay, an act of God. Disaster, natural disaster, artificial disaster, or man-made disasters can happen. And once these disasters happen, we need to attend to human needs. And obviously, we will procure. But aside emergency situation, we ought to plan our procurement. A minute, please. Okay. So a procurement plan should include a detailed breakdown of goods, works, and services required, and completion or delivery dates. So in 2027, maybe the first quarter, this is what is normally done. The procurement department will write to all the user departments, to indicate their procurement needs for the ensuing year. So in 2027, indicate your procurement needs for the year by month, by quarter, and then the entire year. So once the units receive all these requests from the various departments, they will put them together. So maybe from HR will indicate that we will need 2 laptops for 2027, one in the first quarter, the last one in the third quarter. And then there's another request from the same laptop, one maybe coming from finance. Finance says, oh, we will need 3 laptops the whole of 2027. One first quarter, 2 second quarter, and then the last one third quarter. So assuming these are the only requests on laptops. Now, if we aggregate for the first quarter, the organization should plan for the procurement of 2 laptops, because we will add that of the HR and then that of the finance in the first quarter. And then the same thing for second quarter, third quarter, and the final quarter. Assuming these are the only laptops, means in 2027, there will be about 5 laptops. 5 laptops. Now, these laptops will not be needed at the same time. So how do we go about it? So this is where your procurement knowledge or expertise will come to play. So we can negotiate for 5 laptops and then ensure that deliveries are made during the preferred delivery date by the users. So even though we are buying 5 laptops, we don't want the supplier to supply all the 5 laptops. So assuming one laptop is 5,000 cedis and we are buying 5 of them, how much would the total be? Maybe around 25,000 cedis. 25 cedis. We don't want to pay the 25 cedis outright. So maybe it is payment as deliveries are made. So once deliveries are made, then the organization will issue the check for payment. Okay, so one will be delivered maybe in the last quarter. It is still 5,000. So assuming prices change in the last quarter, it doesn't affect us. If prices fall, it doesn't affect us because we have already negotiated on the prices and it is for that period. So that is the arrangement. Okay, so that is why we need to plan to know where we need to do the aggregation of, requirement. So the procurement department office integrate and consolidate the plans submitted by various departments and sections of the entity to one consolidated procurement plan. So we will have one plan for our organization. So GCC, you will have just one procurement plan for just, for the period, the year ensuing year, the year ahead. Reasons for procurement planning. Why we need to plan our procurement. It helps to decide what to buy, when, and from what sources. So once you plan your procurement, you know the exact goods, exact works, exact services that the organization will procure in the ensuing year. And then the sources of supply or sources of consultants, sources of contractors. Again, it allows planners to determine if expectations are realistic or not. So through the planning, if expectations are unrealistic, then you quickly make what amendment. Assuming a user is saying we need to put up and let's say ICD has written to the university that they want the university to put up a modern lecture block for ICD, and they want the facility to be ready in 6 months' time. So maybe 6 months, the 6th month of the ensuing year. So maybe around June 2027, this facility should be what? Ready. So upon receiving this, you can tell them that no, this is not realistic. A story within 6 months is not possible. It's not possible. There's no way we can do that. Because structures, we need to do this, do that, do this. So going as long as 8th floor, it's not easy to complete it within 6 months. So maybe we can revise the timelines. So it is important we plan. It is an opportunity for all stakeholders to involve in the procurement processes. So now once you are submit, you know that you are part of the procurement process. Okay, because we usually notify all departments within the organization for them to send in their inputs. Okay. I have already mentioned that sometimes we can't do without emergency. But once we plan, the emergency ones will automatically go down. But some people will intentionally avoid planning just to undertake reactive procurement. And I've said that reactive procurement or emergency procurement is very expensive. So as much as possible, we need to minimize reactive or emergency procurement and then go for procurement planning. You need to plan ahead. You need to plan ahead. Plan ahead. And then it permits the creation of a procurement strategy. So once you have a plan for 2027, then you look through the plan and then you find strategies to deal with the plan because you want the best for the organization. Okay, you want the best for the organization. But if it happens abruptly, it's difficult to, at that time, within that space, strategize. But once you have time, you can always come out with a good strategy to do with the situation at hand. So sometimes you may not even have the money. So because you don't have the money, but the need is urgent, what do? You look at other legal ways through your strategies to still procure those things for the users. Example, the university is planning to maybe increase enrollment by, or in 2020, this 2026, 2027 academic year, maybe admit about 15,000 or 20,000 students. So once you are planning to admit 20,000 students, 15,000 students, it means you need accommodation. You need lecture rooms. Now, for instance, accommodation, you don't have the resources to put up massive hostels. So what do? Maybe you can negotiate with or talk to these financial institutions to help you build the hostels or halls on campus. In this case, maybe you opt for a BOT, build, operate, transfer strategy. So the facility will be ready maybe next year, but the money needed to construct is not coming from the institution, it's coming from the bank or the financial institution or the investor. But the facility at the end of the day has been procured, just that we use a different model or approach. So that is why we need to plan ahead so that we'll be able to, go through the options, available strategies in order to provide the needed items or projects on time. And then the need for technical expertise to develop technical specifications and or scope of work for certain requirements can be assessed, especially when in-house technical capacity is not available or is non-existent. So once we receive the plan, sometimes based on what is needed, you realize that as for this, you will not be able to provide the specification in-house. You will not be able to develop the specification in-house. Maybe we need to consult a technical person outside of our organization. Okay, so that is why we need to plan ahead. So for those technical staff, sometimes you even need to go outside Ghana to get a consultant, to get a contractor. Okay, so if you have been to KNUST campus, they have this lecture. It is not just a lecture, it is a block. It has offices and other things. They call it smart building. Okay, I think it's the first, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I think on university campuses will be the first, maybe on the Ghanaian university campus. Smart building. The building uses solar, complete 8 or something story. It uses solar, complete green building. Okay, very nice edifice. So if you want something like that, you can't use few weeks or few months to do that. You need to plan ahead. Sometimes it will take you years, maybe 5 years, 6 years, or even more than that. So you plan ahead. And for some aspects of the facility, you will need specialized skill. So once you realize that you do not have the capacity in-house, through the planning, you know that for this, we need to look elsewhere so that you make the necessary arrangement to get the right people to help you with the design or the specification. And planners can assess feasibility of combining or dividing procurement requirements into different contract packages. So through the aggregation, sometimes it is appropriate to put them
sir, please, my
together.
hand is up.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. The example you gave about the hostel facility, where a school or the institution can partner with, or they can go to the bank for the bank to help put up that building. And then you made mention of the build, operate, and transfer, the BOT. Now, the BOT thing, we know it is the build, operate, and transfer. Now, I want to know the institution, that finance the project. Is it that with the BOT, they are going to recoup their money, the money they invested in the project? Is it that they are going to, after completing the project, they are going to recoup the money after they will transfer the ownership of the project to the institution? Is that what the BOT means?
Yeah. So you see, these people, they are investors. Okay. So the investors they are business people. So they will not just come and invest, put their money somewhere. They are doing it because they know they will be able to, recoup the money. So sometimes through negotiation, some arrangements can last for 15 years, others are more than 15 years. Okay. So assuming we are putting up this hostel facility for the university, and then they will be operating the facility for 15 years, sometimes 18 years, sometimes 20 years. So during the period, the facility belongs to the investor. Even though it is on your land, it is on your premise, but the facility, the operation of the facility is in the hands of the private individual or the investor. Okay. But you still make something out of it, but it is minimal in terms of the profit. Majority goes to the investor for the period. And why are they doing that? They want to recoup it because they are using people's money. The banks do not create money. They are using people's money. So they need to make something out of it. So for the period, they will be making money from that facility for a number of years. And before they will say we are doing 15 years, they had already calculated it that within the period, within the 15 years, they should have maybe recouped the monies by this percentage. Okay, so once it is good, that is when they will come. If they are going to make losses, there's no way they will come.
Okay, so the maintenance of the project, and other things, they will be included in the planning process.
Yes, everything. So for the period, everything will be in the hands of the private developer. Okay, so they will be doing this for, let's say, 20 years. However, because the facility is on the university's land, there will be a small percentage that will be given to the university. Every semester or every year, they will do it. But once the time is due, the facility is handed officially to the university completely. Then the facility becomes the university's property.
Okay. So what about BOOT?
These are all models. We call it PPP models. So you look at the appropriate model. Okay. So sometimes the purchaser, the investor will say, we are opting for this model. Then the buyer will say, no, we want this model. So you negotiate because each model comes with its own advantage and disadvantages. Okay. So we look at, when we are doing sourcing, you go into PPP models. There are so many of them, not one. Different models. So you look for the one that best suits you. All right. And then I was on the last point that planners can assess feasibility of combining or dividing procurement requirement into different contract packages. So sometimes you just look at the pros and cons. Do we put everything together? Do we, break it into several packages? You need to look at this. You need to evaluate it and then go with the one that best serves the organization. Okay. Ideally, if the product is the same, you need to buy in bulk. There's a reason why sometimes we want to buy in bulk. And there are reasons why sometimes we want to buy, or break the contract into, several packages. There are reasons. Sometimes the organization will not have enough storage facility in place. So if you buy in bulk, it's going to be difficult. Or sometimes the product in question is perishable. So even if you buy in bulk, where are you going to store? So you need to consider all this. In as much as in public procurement, the law frowns on bet buying in bet, because buying in bet is expensive. In most cases, when you buy in bet, it's very expensive. Okay, so sometimes I don't know how many of you will buy maybe 5 kg of rice. I'm talking about the family, those family members here. If you are married, I don't think you buy 5. When you are buying rice, you buy 5 kg. You buy, the big size. Why? Because once you do the division, it's you save something from, buying in bulk than buying in bits, maybe 5 kg, 5 kg, 5 kg. You don't do that. The same applies to the organization. So we need to treat the organization as business something. Okay, so it must always favor the organization. And the importance are a lot. In fact, in the book, I have given more than, what you see here, or the importance of the plan. So it lists all requirements expected to procure over a period of time. So once you know what you are going to procure, it helps you in, doing things right. And then from the plan, the procurement schedule or schedule is developed. So the schedule establishes the timeline for carrying out each step in the procurement process up to contract award and fulfillment of the requirement. So we have the plan, and then we have this procurement schedule or schedule. I don't know whether you are American or an English person. Okay, and then it allows for the consolidation of similar requirement under one contract, or the division of a requirement into several contract packages for economies of scale. So I'm saying that whether you buy in bit or whether you divide it for, several packages, or whether you put them together so that you can buy in bulk, it's not because you are benefiting directly from it. You have gone through that and you realize that buying in bit at this time will serve the interest of the organization better than maybe buying in bulk. Okay, so whether you are dividing the packages into several packages, or by putting everything together, you are doing that to achieve what we call economies of scale. Economies of scale. Okay, so from the number of requirements on the procurement plan, the procurement entity can determine beforehand any need for additional staffing, including external assistance for the purposes of completing all procurement requirements listed on the plan, among others. And then again, it allows for the monitoring of the procurement process to determine how actual performance compares with planned activities. And thus, to alert the pertinent department and adjust the procurement plan accordingly. And then it enhances transparency and predictability of the procurement process. So we know that in the next quarter, this is the kind of procurement that will be undertaken. In the first quarter, this is what is going to be undertaken. And then, everybody in the organization knows what is happening. Because people have tagged those procurement officials, staff, that they are corrupt or something. Once people see that, oh, this is what we are doing, you are not doing anything behind the scenes. So people will be quite okay with whatever we do. So it is important we plan. So steps and content of a procurement plan. What the plan entails. So once you are thinking of planning your procurement, or once you see a procurement plan, you see the content will be like this. So assess or list the needs or requirements. It will be clearly stated or captured in there. So here, collect the list of needs from the user departments. And then research the local market for the prices and availability of goods. Okay, so once you receive the request, you plan, and then you search whether you can get the items here or you will need to go outside. And then you need to also know the prices of the goods here. Even though the items will be procured in 2027, but you want to know so that once you are planning, once you are putting everything together, you can say that because prices in Ghana generally increase by this percentage, if prices should increase by this is how much the organization will spend on this item. You can easily do that. Determine the quantities and then estimated cost. Very simple. Very simple. And then determine when the requirement shall be needed for use. So you look through and then you deal with the immediate one. So the first quarter items will have to be what prioritized. You don't have to, be looking at, even though the items in the last quarter will be much expensive, but the items in the first quarter are very close. So you need to be thinking about how to procure the items listed in the first quarter. And then identify the interrelationships between and among the requirements. So you receive A, B, C from finance, you receive B, C, D from this. So you look at how many of them, how many A's do we have, how many C's do we have. So you know that, oh, okay, in the first quarter, we are doing A, B, 2 of A's, we are doing 3 of B's, and then blah, blah, blah. So you know how much you are doing. So you need to do that and then consolidate a similar requirement. Identify appropriate procurement methods and processes. So once you are planning, once you are aggregating, you know that, okay, for the first quarter, for the acquisition of, let's say, vehicles, we will use method A, method B. Method A or method B. Why? Because if you compute or estimate the cost of maybe procuring 3 pickups, how much would that be? So once you have the that is estimate. So once you know the estimate, and normally if you want to determine the methods, it is based, the first determinant of a procurement method is the threshold. Okay, so once you know that, because we're buying 3 or 5 pickups in first quarter of 2027, how much is a pickup? So maybe around $50,000, or okay, maybe around $30,000. So 5 of them will be how much? $150,000. Now you go back to the schedule for the threshold. Once the value is around this, what is the most, or the method to use? Then you say that, okay, once it is this, according to the law, it is within this schedule. So around this time, we'll be using this method to procure the laptops. Once you check the price, and the price is maybe below the threshold, then you check the appropriate or corresponding method. Because you can't get up and say that we are using sole sourcing, we are using, or single source, we are using restricted tendering, we are using competitive tendering, and that competitive may be international competitive tendering, national competitive tendering. Everything must be, or must come from what the threshold, the act. So the act will determine the method based on the value, the procurement value. So if the value is, let's say, 20,000 or less, the law says for goods, if the value is less than 20,000, the law says we should use what? Price quotation or request for quotation. It is like that. If it is more than this, we use this method. If it is more than this, this is the method we use. So it is clearly stated. You go to private procurement, private organization, they have their own methods. I mean, they have their own threshold. But for public procurement, it is the same for all public organizations. So you, the procurement officer, cannot get up and say that we are using method B. Why? Because that is what you think you want to use. No. Okay. You don't determine that. It is coming from the law or the guidelines. In the case of private sector procurement, they have, Newmont has its own procurement guidelines. You go to Talu, they have their own guidelines. You go to Anglo Good Ashanti, Goldfields, they have their own procurement guidelines. And you must, once you work there, you must follow the guidelines. Once you work in public sector, you need to look at the Procurement Act. Go to the schedule. The schedule will tell you that this is the method we need to use once the procurement value is this. And then schedule lead time for each processes. Prepare an implementation table or a bar chart identifying key dates for each procurement process. Any question? Any question for the procurement plan or planning? Procurement plan or planning? Any question? I know you are sleeping.
Oh,
Wake
sir,
up.
we're here. We are here, pa.
My friend is sleeping. All of you are sleeping. You are tired.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
We do one for
It's a moment to go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, we are late, sir.
Okay.
Sir. Okay, with the issue of transparency in the procurement cycle, that is in the event of what open tender and competitive bidding. Once it is established that somebody on board of the procurement, how will I say, entity tender committee has a direct benefit to whatever the supplier or the tenderer is doing, is it the best way for the person to recuse or excuse himself from that process? That is number one, before I can continue, sir.
Okay, so we there's something called individual differences. Some people are very particular about certain things. Okay, so they don't want their image or reputation to be tarnished. So in that case, people will say, let me just recuse myself or excuse myself from the process, because people will say that because I am this, maybe I will influence this. So people will just do that. And sometimes even if you do it, people will still say that the members are your friends. You can still talk to them. Okay. So as we speak, there's no law on that. But people, based on their own, principles, will say that let me do this, let me do this. Others don't mind. They will just do the right thing. Okay. It's like teaching your son or your daughter. Will you just pass your son or your daughter? Will you just that is it. So assuming my son or my daughter or my brother is part of this class, what will happen? Assuming my wife is part of this class, what will happen? So some people they have different, the university doesn't have any policy on this. The same applies to when you go to the practice of procurement, that when your relative is part of this, what should be the way forward? It's difficult. It is not clearly stated. But here it is purely on moral grounds. So people will say that, oh, because he or she is my brother, I am just leaving the process. Okay, so you do it. I can give you a typical scenario. Assuming it happened to a procurement director somewhere. There was this pending procurement process. And then at the time, the procurement director had lost her mother. He didn't invite any of the tenderers to the funeral. But during the funeral, one of the suppliers, I don't know how the supplier managed to, get that information, went for the funeral and made a very huge donation to the woman. So the director was there. And then, these account people, director, if you are here, listen, this company, the director is here. He's donating this to support you. So imagine if you were the director of procurement for that institution, what will you do? It happened to somebody. So I think it's similar to what you are asking. Okay, because the next day, maybe the Monday after the funeral was the tender evaluation. And as director of procurement director for that institution, he was the secretary to the evaluation panel. So imagine if you were the director of procurement, what will you have done differently from what the guy did? What will you do? Tell me.
This is just like giving somebody an offer the person cannot reject, and it is very critical. But in as much as a donation was made, but you need to go by the laws as specified, who is qualified by virtue of reputation, credibility, and in fact, which should be by a unanimous decision by the board. But if your influence is that greater to some extent, I will suggest the person can recuse himself from the tender board.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so the guy did the same thing, but I'm saying that under supply, and then unfortunately for that supplier, he was not successful. Unfortunately for him, he was not successful. He was not selected.
Wonderful.
So that is the issue. So go ahead with your second question.
Okay, so the second one is even though the procurement, the cycle of procurement help us to prioritize purchasing of goods and service works in order of merit and how importance we need them so to save the organization money. Certain government organization, according to the Auditor General report, indicate that some people, in order to seek for approval for them to spend beyond the threshold, they segment or they divide the procurement into smaller units so as to bridge that gap. Those flags have been raised. And then there are no punitive actions against those heads of entities who did that. Going forward, what would be your suggestion? Let's say government seeks suggestion. What will be your input to that effect, sir?
Hey, senior.
Yes, sir.
You want to put my leg on a very tall man's shoulder?
Sir, this one before the final.
So this is quite difficult because a friend of mine is he is not the main boss, but he works at a public university, one of the public, the very old, some of the old public universities in Ghana. He's a procurement officer for their hospital. This guy, a friend of mine, we are very close. Anytime auditors go to the institution, always they query him, always. And I've seen a number of the queries when I went to the office one time. In one of the queries, they said the vice chancellor was supposed to take the guy from that place, reassign him or something. But the guy is still there. The guy is still there. Even till now, the guy is still there. It's been over 2-3 years now. The guy is still there. So some of these things, it is just outside the book. So what you know in the books, the norm, people are far from doing the right thing. It's difficult. If the institutions will work, if the political, administration will allow the institutions to work, things will be perfect. But we don't allow the institutions to work. That is the problem. Because I know somebody, you know somebody. So we are all trying to use the somebody we know to get what we want. And we are using that to influence a lot of things. So it makes things difficult for us. But once you find yourself, make sure that I've been telling my students, even especially those at the master's level, that sometimes you know the right thing, but the institution, your leaders are not allowing you to do the right thing. Make sure you get them. If they tell you to do something, don't do it. Just request that the right. And I'm telling you the same thing. If people are telling you to do things against the norm, make sure you politely ask them to maybe put it in writing. It could be an email or a memo that you should do A, B, or C. For some people, once the pressure is too much, they will just resign and leave. But some of these people, once they leave, they are going to die. There will be no work for them again. So they will still be there. But if you are still going to be there, make sure you demand for certain, evidence. Keep them. If it is email, fine. If it is memos, you keep them so that when auditors come after you, you can just prove that this was what you did, but your superiors insisted, and this is the memo. And you report to him or her. So once your superior is telling you to do something like this, there's nothing you can do. This is the memo. The memo instructed you to do this. Okay. Mr. Enim or that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, you see, we realize that some of these malpractices, they normally occur in the public institutions, but in the private sector, you don't find them. You don't find those things there. Yes.
Yeah.
You don't find those things there. They are strict, probably because maybe it is somebody's job, an investor or something. Yes. Okay. But it normally occurs in the public institutions, like the example you gave.
Okay.
Yes.
It's because of the bureaucracy in the public sector. You can't easily sack somebody in the public sector. But in the private sector, you can easily be sacked. Even today, your superior can recommend your dismissal, and it can be done easily. But in the public sector, it's not like that. It's not that easy. So that is why people want to join public sector. It's not easy. But it doesn't mean that in the private sector, corruption is not there. It is there. People do it a lot. It is there. But the magnitude is not that huge compared to the public sector. Okay. My interest in procurement started when I don't know if I mentioned to you, when I joined, I worked with a mining company briefly. That is when I said, then let me do this. Because all my life, when I was in the university, I wanted to work, at a bank. I wanted to be a banker. So in the first year, I did my attachment. My first degree was in economics. So every long vacation, I'll go straight to the bank for attachment. Every semester, every year, I was doing my attachment in the bank until I finished my university. So the time from the period from the time I completed to my national service, I was after national service, briefly. After national service, I went to the mining company. And then when I got there, I met my senior at the university. He said, Afari, convince the HR to send you to procurement. I know why I'm telling you like that. Go tell him that you want to go to procurement. The reason was that those people there a lot of them were, on post-retirement contracts. So very soon the mining company will kick them out and then employ new guys. And so once you are there, the likelihood of them, employing you is very, very high. So tell him. So I went straight to HR, Mr. Zuma. I sat down with him. I said, I want to do my attachment, my internship there at the procurement department. He said, why? I said, no special reason. I just want to be there. So okay, no problem. And then quickly he wrote to the HODs and then transferred me to procurement. So there was one other guy there. And at the procurement department, every day after work, the officers, they will give us envelope. The two of us on an internship, they will give us envelope. So I thought it was a normal thing for all the internships guys. Every day they will give us envelope. Sometime this was in 2012. Yes, 2012. Mm-hmm. I think when President Mills died, I was there. Mm-hmm. So every day they were giving us envelope. Every day. So one time when we went to the cafeteria, we call it senior club, we were discussing. I said, so how much do you get each day from you? I said, how much? Money from where? So it was only those of us at the procurement department. I said, hey, then the procurement is sweet. So for this reason, I want to be here all my life. I don't want to go to any department. Because aside the allowance, $200 the institution was giving us, I was getting money every day from my superiors. I don't know where they were getting the monies from, but every day, Monday to Friday, they will give us sometimes 50 cedis, sometimes 100 cedis, 50 cedis, 20 cedis, 50 every day. So that changed my perception about bank and said, I don't want to be in the bank again. I want to be procurement. And even with the procurement, I don't want to go to the banking procurement. I want to be here. So anytime suppliers come there, they were giving them gifts. And those people were, I think they were kind to us. When they received the gifts, they were also gifting us. And it changed until now. I'm a full procurement guy. I love procurement because procurement pays. And I'm talking about good payment, not those bad ones. And I want you to run away from the bad gifts. It can lead you to some straight. Nobody will save you. Is that okay?
This is a wonderful epistle from you, sir.
Yes. Okay. So I think the final part before we end, the way you are quiet, I'm not happy. So now let's look at the function of the procurement department. Procurement department does a lot of things. So briefly, let's quickly look through some of these functions. So one, finding and approving suppliers. Now I said the suppliers here, the term is generic. So it's not only suppliers, contractors, consultants. It is the mandate or function of procurement department to do that. And then purchasing at least total cost to the company. So you try as much as possible to bring the cost down. Okay, so we need to procure. If it's just about procuring or purchasing, anybody at all can purchase. But once you call yourself a procurement person, you must procure with the aim of minimizing the costs and then ensuring delivery of goods and services at the right time. Right time. It is very, very important. Right time. And then warning all concerned if deliveries are not going to be met, so that you make the necessary arrangement. Maybe there could be other arrangements so that it doesn't affect the operations of the organization. And you can only get to know about this through expediting. So once you do effective expediting, you know that the supplier is going to disappoint or the contractor will not be able to. Okay. So you need to be doing that so that you warn these people, concerned, the stakeholders, the end users, and then verifying invoice presented by suppliers. So you don't just act on them. Once you receive invoices, you need to, interrogate, you need to vet it. You need to verify just to be sure that the amount you are paying or the monies you are paying the right amount. And then organizing all discussions with suppliers, both actual and potential. Speculative buying is sometimes a duty of the buying department, speculative buying. And you can only do that when you are on top of the market. You do market survey or market research. And then through the research, you'll be able to identify that prices are likely to increase for certain products. And because you buy the products maybe in high volumes, once you procure now ahead, just because of what you anticipate is going to serve the interest, not you. I'm saying that the decision you take in the organization as a procurement office must always favor the organization, not you, your personal interest. Okay, so once you anticipate prices, maybe inflation increasing by maybe 10%, 50% in the next 2-3 quarters, meaning it is going to affect the prices of goods. So in this way, once you do the calculation and then you buy those items now that prices are a bit stable, you store them. And then once we get there, you save the company something. You must always be thinking that way. Okay, so sometimes we do speculative buying. So once you are going with speculative, it means that how you speculate must be very, very good. Because sometimes maybe you just dream and you are thinking that prices are going to increase, so let us buy more. By the time you get to the time, prices are rather going up. It means you have caused the organization financial loss, and that is dangerous. Okay, so this speculative buying is on the procurement department. So you need to take charge, be on the market, and then be able to do that to support the operations of the organization. They're advising on prices for materials or service to be used in new or modified designs. Okay, so once designs are submitted, once specifications are submitted, you need to actually look at it from this angle, and then you give the necessary advice. And then finally, acting as a window on the world to the organization, window of the world. So if the organization, if the employees, if the stakeholders in the organization want to see things outside, and things outside, maybe I'm talking about the market, they will come to procurement department. Okay, so through the procurement department, they're able to know that prices are going up, prices are coming down. These are the current or modern items on the market in terms of, let's say, gadgets, laptops. These are the current ones. These are this. Okay, so acting as a window. You can't act as a window if you are not on top, if you are not going straight to the markets. And going to the market does not mean maybe visiting Mokola. Okay, you do a lot of research. It could be a desktop research. It could be physical research. So whatever way, you want to go about it, the interest is to actually be a window of the world to the organization. Any question? This is the end. I will end here because you are sleeping.
So we are not sleeping.
Yeah, we are full.
We are listening attentively, sir.
It's just that we are tired. That's all.
Yes. So once you are tired, sometimes you sleep. I remember 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I was teaching one class. I was talking, meanwhile, I was sleeping at the same time. So I asked them, what did I say? Because I was sleeping. It was an online meeting. Whilst teaching, my mind was far gone. Far gone. It happens sometimes.
You
When
sleep
you are
small.
tired, you sleep.
So they sleep
Okay, so
talking.
yeah. And sometimes you don't know what you said. It could be an
Yes, sleep
insult. They
talking.
will not
Yes.
even tell you that you were insulting them. They will just go and say it somewhere. Okay, so if there are no questions, I am taking attendance. I'm not going to mention names now. I'm just taking a screenshot. So just stay online for some time. Okay. Okay. That's fine. Okay, so I am done. Let's meet next weekend. Bye-bye.
Next weekend is holiday.
Yes, sir.
Next weekend?
Easter break.
Yes.
Wait,
Okay. That's fine.
But
No
if you
problem.
want us to do a midterm next week, you can do it. We can do it.
Oh no. If it's
you haven't given us any assignment so far.
yes. I like it this way. So once you are calling for more assignments, you get it. Don't worry. So the holidays, I will give you plenty assignments.
Hey.
Yes. So you will see it. Check the portal. Once
Now,
I
the way
I'll
you are doing the assignment means we are not going to write midterm. That one will
Enoch,
be
you like that. Enoch, you like that thing too much.
Joseph,
Please allow him to talk.
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
I'm saying the way you are saying the assignment is going to be printed, that means there will no be missing.
No, the MSM is usually very simple. So we do it online, okay? Like we meet this time, 10 minutes, all of you. This is how I do the assignment. So I will show you, project the questions. All of you must be on WhatsApp at the time.